What's up, Amazon sellers, and welcome back to the weekly Amazon Q&A show where we share some e-commerce news, some stats, the occasional business maxim, and of course, answer your questions about selling on Amazon. So if you got a question about retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, wholesale, or perhaps you just have a Keepa quandary, well, drop it in the chat and we'll be happy to help. For those of you who may be new here, I'm Chris Grant, and to my right is my pulchritudinous co-host, Chris Rasick, and we're also joined today by the apotheosized Steve French. Fellas, how is twofer today?
Yeah,
how you guys doing?
Reeling from the double adjectives right now. I mean, you have to give me a few seconds.
All right. We might as well hit the ground running. I see that we've got a lot more people here than normal this early in the show, and people are obviously curious. Did Amazon just unalive the toys category as we head into Q4? And I know all three of us listened. I know, Steve, you've already gone live once. I think we've all got opinions. I've got a sneaking suspicion that our opinions are all going to align. But since you're our guest, Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think you guys mentioned on the show the other day, called it you're pretty sure it wouldn't be an extinction event, and of course, no, it wasn't, right? So toys are very much still alive and well. It's just going to look a little different. So we kind of thought there was going to be some bad news here, but my opinion is this is maybe the best version of bad news you could get. So I'll try to start at the beginning. So the way it works now, for the most part, is when someone wants to make a toy listing, whether that's PL or a brand or Amazon themselves, right? Documents are needed. So the two documents that are needed is a CPC document, right? And a testing document. So what a CPC document is, it's basically a document that says, we'll use Funko, for example. Everybody knows what a Funko Pop is. So, hey, I'm Funko. I'm located at this address. The factory that made this item is located at this address. Here's a picture. Here's a description. Here is an item number, something like that. And here are all of the different tests we say it passes. Okay. Now, this CPC document could be 1 page, 2 pages, maybe 5 pages max. Pretty small. The testing document, though, is very large. It could be 40, 80, 100, 200 pages. And that is all the minutia of, okay, there's this certain spec that it has to pass based on US law or California law or Canadian law or whatever it might be. And here are all the ways we tested it.
Oh man. Right in the middle of a great explanation of what's going on. I'm sure.
Uh-oh. You still got me there?
We got sound.
Uh-oh. Hang on.
All right, we got visual again.
How about that?
There we go.
Maybe. Let's try that. How's that work?
Perfect.
Good or no?
Yeah, you're good.
Yep. Sounds like you might not have our audio.
Yeah, seems that way.
All right. So, Chris, do you want to, while we're waiting for him to get a more stable connection, I'm curious your take on it. So,
I do agree with Steve. I think that this was the best bad news that we could get. The good part of the news, or maybe even the great news, is that the compliance is going to be at the ASIN level. So if one seller submits the testing documentation, everyone else is good to go. I think that's the biggest takeaway especially for those of us who are doing arbitrage, those who are reselling. If you're not a brand owner, then that's good news. Here we go. There we go, man. We got you.
Okay, I'm back. Don't know what happened there. Okay, so CBC document different than a testing document, right? And we kind of have to understand the difference. So that the difference now is Amazon's always required these things to make a listing, but then after that, it's pretty much a sometimes.
Steve, I hate to do this, but now we got poor audio connection, man.
Any better there? I'm sorry.
Not yet. This is how much Steve wants to give back to the community. Yeah, no, he's not in the middle of an RA trip. He's actually sitting outside of his son's soccer game, talking to a bunch of slubs like us.
Now, I was going to say, since we have video but not audio, I was going to ask for him to show us the back of his truck.
Right. We'll give Steve just a minute. Now, the other thing is the validation of these testing documents. It's going to be good for 12 months. Now, the issue I see there, especially for the OA, the RA folks, and even wholesale folks, is if you go and you buy some things, well, you have no idea when that clock is going to reset. Like, when is the next time that testing documentation has to be sent in? Is it 12 months? Which if we hop on a listing now and we don't get anything on our account health, we may be able to assume that it's 12 months from now, but we can't say for sure. Now, does an indicator show up in Keepa down the road? Possibly. If over time people drop off the listing and we're like, oh, well, that looks like that the listing, went out of stock, or maybe was taken down for a short time because probably didn't have testing documentation or it wasn't validated. But we can't know for sure, because I would imagine it's going to look very similar to an IP complaint. Except for maybe it takes out everybody rather than just, leaving one or two sellers on the board. Now the other thing,
and that way, if I can jump in, that would rely on Amazon providing that information to Keepa, which we don't know that that's necessarily a given.
Right. Yeah, we have no idea. Now, the other difficult thing, in my opinion, and I don't think this is going to be a huge deal, but it certainly could be for things that are a bit older. Maybe someone finds no problem, Steve. I appreciate you being willing to come on in here. But if something is older, it's built in the, I don't know, early 2000s or whatever, there may not be a brand who's going to go out and get testing documents on that item. And so if that is being sold, if there is some stockpile, those may no longer be on Amazon. Those are going to have to go eBay, because the testing centers, or the TICs is what they're calling them, they don't accept items from third-party sellers. Those testings have to be requested by the brand owner. And that information comes from Seller Basics. Joy put that out. She said they're going to reach out to their contacts and see if maybe that could be worked out where it's changed a little bit. So again, I think that's a small wrinkle. I highly doubt that people have, these massive stockpiles that they're waiting for years and years to sell through. But what does that mean in 16 months from now, when, I don't know, a retired Lego set, or, they said, I can't remember if board games were included in there. I kind of have a feeling they are, but what happens if somebody holds on to a pack of Pokemon cards for 16 months? Like, it seems like collectibles, true collectibles, are going to end up needing to go to another platform eventually, depending on how long you hold them. That platform is no longer Walmart either. You know, they're closing up their collectible category or gating it, is what I saw just the other day. So yeah, that's an interesting wrinkle for those who hold on to toys, which is really what I wanted to get into Steve with. You know, what his plan was for holding on to toys, not something I really do myself.
Well, you know what? Before we move on, before we get too far away from that, from the collectibles, that was probably the number one thing that the biggest obstacle. You know, it was the buy and hold contingent of the Amazon sellers, and it will be a challenge. However, the clear bright side in my mind is when it comes time to sell what you've been holding, inventory is depleted. You know, supply is much, much lower than demand across the board, right? So I would argue that you'd probably be able to get a comparable profit on eBay or another marketplace because that supply, that hold has matured, you know, so no
Yes.
one has any stock. So I mean, the fact that it's hard to get is going to work to the seller's advantage that employ that strategy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a horrible thing. Like, it's not going to ruin the toy category. Just means a different marketplace. You know, where
Mhm.
people maybe you don't make $300, maybe you make 275. You know,
Right.
so and like I see Mark and Jen down there. You guys are absolutely right. Like, yeah, they did often say, go check the CPSC website. There was definitely a few things that I think they tried to jump around a little bit. Like I'll give you an example here. So, and I'm reading between the lines here, in a very particular piece of the conversation during the Q&A. But it sounds like Amazon is going to be working on leveraging their relationships with these testing centers to make sure that they have documentation for as many toys as possible. Now, he was sort of like being very careful with his words, and he didn't implicitly state that. Um, but I'm hoping that that is the case, that like they're trying to get as many documents as possible. And if that is the case, then this may mean that there's a much smaller subset of ASINs that this actually affects, at least for right now. Um, but of course, they still need resellers to fill in those gaps. And that's, well, not resellers, but they need sellers, period. Could be, private label sellers, could be 3P sellers, etc. They're trying to get us to be able to fill in those gaps for them, which is going to be difficult because someone's going to have some sort of relationship with the brand. And so what my thought was is the people who might actually pay the biggest price here are the people who maybe have wholesale relationships with maybe some toy suppliers. Perhaps they have maybe they don't have a relationship with the brand, and the brand doesn't necessarily really care about Amazon as a sales channel. And the brand is saying, you know what, we don't want to deal with any of this stuff. So, you're out of luck with us. So,
yeah. Now, so my question for the information that Joy had, that they don't accept toys from third-party sellers. How do you establish a brand? Because if you bring a private label toy to market, I understand, yeah, you are the brand, but how do you prove that to the testing facility? So there has to be a path for someone new to come in and say, I need your services.
yeah, that is a great question. And I don't know if Joy's post was specifically about the testing centers that Amazon has partnered with, which actually brings me to another question. Which executives at Amazon are financially embedded with these testing centers that are now going to get an influx of new business.
Yeah, that's
but
what I was found myself
let
thinking
me
about.
let me set the tinfoil hat off to the side.
Well, that's not even tin foil. That's just business. That's networking.
Right. My question is are there any other testing centers? And I didn't go looking, but they said that they would accept documentation from any CPSC compliant testing center. So are there other testing centers that may allow someone who is not the brand owner to use their services? And then the question is it worth it based on the price? Because I've seen $800 to $2,000, but I don't know for sure what the actual cost is.
Yeah. All right. So can we go back to the beginning and I'm not sure, and maybe setting the table might help us reason through this. Do you know what this is based on? Is this new regulations? Is this tightening, or is this just all of a sudden? Because there's a lot of overlap between what Walmart's doing and what Amazon's doing. So is there someone above dictating this policy?
That's a great question. I mean, you and I keep pretty close tabs on e-commerce and retail news. And I haven't seen anything out of the retail media, kind of crazy about the that there's a whole retail media. But I haven't seen anything about like kids getting hurt or like at a higher rate than before. And so like I am curious where this is coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to go looking. Is this some sort of regulation coming from the government to perhaps slow down Chinese imports? Like, is this kind of a roundabout way of, slowing that kind of stuff down? I don't know.
It would have that effect, but at the same time, like you mentioned before, we probably would have read about it and reported on it.
Yeah, I would think so. So yeah, I have no idea why this is happening, but I mean, obviously both Amazon and Walmart are reacting to something.
Yeah. And that's what's making me curious. All right, Steve, maybe Steve is
Steve's following along here. So Steve says, maybe I misunderstood the webinar, but I don't agree with what Seller Basics put out. In my opinion, Seller Basics announcement is conflating two separate things. Okay. And we'll have to get more clarification on that. Walmart is also using a third party to verify testing and CPC documents. Very interesting. Both platforms have moved this liability to a third party. That is a great point.
Yeah.
Amazon and Walmart are being very obvious, even though they're not coming right out and saying it, in the fact that they want to be able to point the finger to someone else if something happens. That doesn't surprise me one bit, I guess.
Yeah, and Amazon's taken that stance for a long time, right? I mean, they're always trying to say, no, we're just the mall. These people, they're stores within the mall. We're just a place they hang out. They've tried to push away that liability for a while. So
absolutely,
it's interesting that they're making such similar moves at the same time. So how did you? So overall, you were okay. It's bad news, but you felt like we got off pretty easy in general. Is that fair to summarize?
I think so. Do I think that things are going to have to change a little bit? Do I think you're going to need to be a little bit more careful and how you source? So I think you need to understand more about what's necessary to be a seller on the platform. Yeah, like private label sellers, maybe one private label supremacist in particular likes to call us the garage sellers. although I don't see any private label sellers going public this week. But that's another topic, and I can be petty later. But we have to make sure that we don't fall into that stereotype. I think and we've been saying this for years. Others have been saying this for years. Like, now is the time that the professional resellers, who are entrepreneurs first and use reselling as an avenue of making money. I think this is the time when they shine. Because the people who are like, oh, well, it's not easy, I can't just flip whatever I feel like anymore. They're going to be the ones who go away, who, think it's too much trouble, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's, the people who treat it like a business, their chances of being fine with all of this are much, much higher. So my question is, or I want your opinion on this. How much does this model the typical Q4 CPC rush that we usually get? I mean, is it the type of thing where other sellers are going to do most of the heavy lifting, where we can just kind of see it in our account health dashboard and feel pretty confident that somebody else will get to it before we have to handle it?
I would imagine for a large portion of toys, that's what I'm betting on. I'm betting that either Amazon has the documentation already through their testing partners. And I know I'm really reading between the lines there, but they really, the guy was really tiptoeing around, like, coming out and saying that. But I think there will be, brands who, even if the brand themselves don't sell on Amazon, I bet you there's a lot of people who don't want their products not being sold on the platform. And so, maybe they take care of it. Or sellers who do have relationship with the brands, make sure it's taken care of. I would imagine this has ended up mostly handled from other people. Now, are there going to be some toys that get lost on the platform? Probably. I would imagine there are going to be some dog pages and things like that.
Yeah. I can't help but keep thinking, ultimately, the people who make these toys, distribute these toys, and wholesale these toys out want to sell toys in Q4, right? Like, that leads me to believe that either there's some sort of path or some sort of modification, including Amazon. When I say that, Amazon wants to sell toys in Q4. It's a massive portion of their revenue in that quarter specifically. So I think that is going to strip some of the friction that we may come across. I think maybe as the waves of requests and as the sellers and all the different people who need to have this, as the requests come in, I think maybe it gets a little bit easier as far as the process goes, right? Because ultimately we're talking to people that want to sell their products.
Yes. Yeah, I would like to think that as well. Now, and so Steve's got a good point here. So Steve says, back to the seller basic announcement, the thing that he understands is that Amazon is only going to accept testing from approved ticks. And that's just the testing centers is what that is. They're not going to accept submissions direct from third-party sellers or unapproved centers. So that is one clarification that does need to be out there. Is, unlike CPCs, with a CPC, you could send in the documentation. You just upload it and you're usually good to go. With these, the documentation has to come directly from the testing center.
Yeah. And if that's, that would make sense that maybe the information that Seller Basics put out misinterpreted when Amazon said third-party sellers can't submit it to Amazon.
Mhm.
So that would clear that up. And
Yeah. And so Steve's got another good point here. So number one, I don't believe this is an attack on arbitrage. And this is a great point. Right now, a lot of PL sellers are using their own labs for testing. Matter of fact, someone even asked already, or during that webinar, will there be approved centers in China? Okay. And so, in Steve's opinion, this is really targeting private label sellers, who are either skirting the rules or outright breaking the rules. And if that is the case, then I'm totally down with this.
Mhm.
I saw a video not too long ago of a guy going into a TJ Maxx, a Ross, something like that, and testing like dishes for lead. And the amount of dishes that had lead in them or on them was incredibly high. Like, it was crazy, And so, if this is Amazon saying, hey, you know what? We know that there's a lot of brands who are importing and selling items that are blatantly against US and Canadian um, law. This is our way to stop those things. Cool. I'm down for that, because the Lego item, the Hasbro item, the Mattel item, I'm not going to have trouble with that myself, selling it.
Right. Yeah, and I think in one of the answers to the questions, even one of the Amazon people that were on the webinar, they even said something along those lines. They said, well, yeah, I mean, we certainly hope that everything on the catalog has been rigorously tested, because somebody tried to make the point like, okay, Mattel and Hasbro aren't going to release a toy unless that testing has been done,
Mhm.
So, I just lost my. So the question is, one of the questions which I didn't have an immediate answer is Amazon to Amazon flips toys.
Yes.
Toys that are available for under 12. Now, I've seen opinions, like because my knee jerk reaction was, I don't know why those would be taken off, right? Because this wasn't just like an enhancement to the existing CPC policy, right? This
Mhm.
was a webinar. This was a rollout of, they treated it more like a new policy
Mhm.
rather than an enhancement. So
Mhm.
if it's distinct enough from the existing CPCs and the requirements around those, if it's distinct enough to do this webinar, why would we assume that the policy that Amazon had requesting CPCs from toys that you bought from Amazon, why would we assume that would also be the same policy? Right?
Right.
Meaning, if this is so important to Amazon, they're going to have a catalog of things that they stock themselves. Why wouldn't we be exempt, since they already have the documentation in order for them to sell it?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine that most A2A is probably going to be fine, especially if Amazon is on the listing. Now, I did see Steve say, again, and most likely rightfully so, could there be some difficulty if you're on the tail end of like an Amazon exclusive product, doing A2A and wanting to wait until Amazon sells out, and perhaps it ends up falling outside of the 12-month window? Like, is Amazon going to pay to get a test for an item that they no longer sell? My guess is probably not.
Yeah.
But again,
Are
man, there
are
was a
they
word.
liquidating because the expiration is coming up?
Right. Yeah, that's another good question. There was a word somebody used to describe toys and their nature that I saw the other day, and it was a perfect term. But anyway, but again, back to your point, because of the very nature of the toys and the fact that it's no longer made anymore, you're probably not going to have an issue selling it on another marketplace if there was and is enough demand for it anyway, because there will likely be demand on eBay, on whatnot, on wherever else you may want or be able to sell that item.
Yeah, because it's largely not available in retail stores anymore. That becomes its own destination, right? That becomes its own keyword, not just on Amazon, but on, search engines, so if you're looking for, I want this specific 2017 Lion-O Thundercat figure, you're going to put that into Google and it's going to show you if Amazon has it, but it also show you if eBay has it, Mercari, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, they're looking for that specific toy as the keyword in that case. So, yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah. And again, yeah, I think Steve is right on here. It is going to take a motivated party to submit documents. And, once Amazon is off of a listing, who then is left to get that documentation? That'll be the thing. So yeah, do toys become, does it become more of a transitory category on Amazon, and maybe things don't last quite as long as they do? I think that's definitely a possibility, for OA and RA sellers. I don't know. I think the best way to beat back that particular risk is, again, and not to beat a dead horse here, but you got to go wide and fairly shallow. That way, if you
Right.
are left holding the bag, at least it's not too deep that you can't at least get some of your capital back, or hopefully all of it back on another platform. And I keep saying on another platform like there are multiple. It's really just eBay now. You're probably not going to sell toys on Walmart.
Well, that brings up another good question: is there are professional sellers on eBay? What are their requirements?
Yeah. And how come? Yeah, I wonder, because we haven't heard eBay. eBay just had the eBay Open not too long ago. eBay didn't bring any of this stuff up. What is the difference between their marketplace and the Walmart and Amazon marketplace that are making these two companies react in a very similar way, but not a peep out of eBay? So it's curious.
Yeah, because you clearly have the option to sell as new, which and I can't think of a reason that a new toy for the under 12 crowd would be exempt from it on eBay.
Yeah, that's and or does eBay come out with it? I don't know. I don't know how big the toy category is in terms of gross merchandise volume on eBay. This is a good question.
Well, but certainly the collectible side of it. I mean, that's I've moved quite a bit of stuff, and unfortunately, the collectible issue that doesn't extinguish the requirement. If it was designed, they made a point to talk about, if it's designed to be played with by a child, the fact that it's its run has expired and it's not being produced anymore doesn't change the fact that it was designed as a toy for under 12.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess one thing we should tell everybody here is you should probably go and educate yourself a little bit, especially if you want to sell toys. Like, what items are considered toys and they reference the CPSC, CPSC quite often, and they said, go and read what the CPSC defines as a toy when people were asking, is a teddy bear considered a toy? Well, first of all, yes. Okay.
So
Somebody
somebody asked
a better
about baby
question.
toys.
Right.
Seriously?
And then someone asked about is a backpack a toy? No, it's not meant to be a toy. Now, could a backpack be part of a toy on a doll? Sure, absolutely. But a backpack itself, of course, is not going to be there. And they also went down this path of items that are meant to be collectible, but like not taken out of the box. And that seemed like a very, very niche question. But again, I mean, how can you say, oh, this is not meant to be taken out of the box? Like, how can one say that about an action figure and then expect that to be the case if someone does decide to gift a $700 action figure to a 12-year-old? You can't.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
so
provide proof that you are the living version of Steve Carell and the 40-year-old virgin, or prove that you live in your mom's basement and you will not take this out of the package, and then you'll be okay. Hey, was there a I don't know if I missed this. Was there a distinction made between FBA and merchant fulfilled?
no, it is just it's at the ASIN level, period. Doesn't matter. And there was either they didn't answer the question or nobody asked. I know. Well, I put it in a question. Is there a difference between new and used? I'm just going to assume no. Like, there is no difference
Right.
between new and used. It just testing documents need to be there for every ASIN in the catalog that Amazon requires.
Right.
And I got a couple other points here too. But Steve, again, man, I wish you'd been on here with us, man. But another great point here is, could this hurt the long tail of toy listings? Yeah, absolutely. But is the silver lining to this the demand for current toys? Do they go up, especially as we head into Q4? And off air, Steve and I were talking, and he said that he noticed that between November of 2024 and today, about 1 million listings have been gone from the toy catalog on Amazon. And so as we move into Q4 and the hot season for toys, and people are searching for that toy for Timmy, or that doll for Sally, or whatever they're looking for, and they're just browsing, does the demand is going to go somewhere. And so does this actually end up making the margins on current products higher? I would argue that the possibility is there. Maybe not this Q4, and depending on how quickly they start rolling out the account health warnings for the toys that do need testing documents. But I mean, it could be as early as this Q4, because there's no grace period. It started on September 3rd, and if you've got that notification in your account health, like, they want it in the next 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. What was the other thing I wanted? I had something else I was going to bring up, and now I forget. Here's another good one. Lego is very much a question mark because testing documents for Lego are not publicly available. I assume they eventually exempt Lego from the testing requirement, but as of now, we're not certain. That's a great point. I think Lego might be the only thing I have other toys in stock. We don't sell a lot of toys, but we do have some toys in stock, and I have no account health notifications on any of them as of yet. So should be interesting to see which ones do. And then merchant fulfilled has the same rules as FBA. Positive side of FBM is you don't have to pay to recall the inventory if the requirement for docs isn't satisfied. Absolutely the case there. I remember someone asking if there was a way to sidestep these kind of rules. Like, no, that's probably a bad idea. Like, the people who ask those questions are usually the people who, in 3 to 6 months down the road, you see them saying, "Oh, I got suspended. I didn't do anything wrong." So we've got to follow the rules.
Yeah, I mean, a couple different scenarios. People, I understand it, but a lot of sellers on social media and stuff seem to be taking this a self-absorbed approach, and how inconvenient it is with Q4. I think it's important to at least acknowledge the spirit of this regulation, in the fact that this is so that kids are playing with toys that are safe and will not harm them. So I made that point in the OAC Plus in the chat. Like, if you look at it through that lens of why they're doing this and what documents actually are, you can make an argument that the timing is almost perfect. So it's about the equivalent of complaining when car seats became a regulation. Like, I'm gonna be late for work. What do you mean I got to strap my kid in the back? And
Right.
it's like, let's.
Funny enough, I was actually just talking to my aunt about that not too long ago. She was talking about a brand new car seat and how complicated it was, and I was like, just don't buy one. I said, I remember riding in the back window of a Chevy Chevette, and I'm still around.
Yep.
So
My dad, I used to ride on a 5-gallon bucket in my dad's work van because the back seats were ripped out for the room for the tools.
Yeah. All right. So if you guys have questions, start dropping them in the chat. Like, we will be more than happy to answer, at least give you our opinion on things. I'm gonna go with Debbie first, and then I'm gonna move back up to the top here. But how are we notified that the documentation is necessary for the specific ASIN? It will show up in your account health dashboard. That is where everything will be. Amazon did say in their very first email, I believe it said that they were also going to email out anybody who had ASINs, or they said they were going to give you a list of affected ASINs. But the best place to check is going to be your account health. That's where they're all going to show up.
And wouldn't that be something if we underestimate the database that Amazon already has, and a bunch of sellers are just kind of sitting here and it's just crickets waiting for this avalanche of violations or notifications that never come?
Right. All right, Luke, great question here. So will Amazon provide the deadline when SKUs are added to inventory, or maybe a lookup? I believe they talked about this. There's not going to be like a list that you can look up. They specifically said that. So I think the thing to do here, and now we're going to be releasing a podcast with Joy from Seller Basics, and this is going to fly directly in the face of something that she said. But I think the play here is going to be to honestly add these to your catalog before you go and buy something, especially if you plan on, buying more than a week's worth of inventory that you're going to. I mean, if you're going to FBA it at all, you're going to want to know, are documents required? Are these testing documents required before? You may not have time to send the items in and sell through if nobody else provides those documents. So, and that will fly directly in the face of somebody who is an account health specialist and helps people get reinstated. But I think that's the only way to figure it out right now.
And it won't be a huge issue if you're active with the process that you use to delete listings.
Correct. Yeah.
That kind of becomes more important.
Yeah. Are there any other categories already with required certifications like this? Not that I'm aware of. Yeah, not that I'm aware of at the moment, at least. Potato. Yeah. Yeah. The entire time watching that webinar. Now I listened to most of it. I was driving for part of it. I was at an appointment with my wife for another part of it. So I paid as close to attention as I could. But there were some times I was like, holy cow, these people are being really, really careful with their words, which I don't particularly care for. I'm like, can't we just shoot from the hip? And of course, as an Amazon employee, no. And then my other thought was they were looking for a whole lot of validation. So I wonder what kind of bonus they get if they got a bunch of 5 stars for putting that webinar on. Joseph, dude, this is awesome. Thank you. I've watched 3 of your hour-long videos this week. Been learning so much. Just started a month ago. That's fantastic, man. Glad to have you here. Are these requirements also for used and collectible conditions? Yep. Yeah, it's just at the ASIN level, period. Christy, I wonder about the toy investor's thoughts on this. Haven't listened to his podcast yet, but might be worth bringing him back. Yeah, I'll at least ask him if he wants to come on next Wednesday after he's had some time to think about this. We'd be I highly doubt he's listening, but if you are, Wes, would love to have you in here next week or on Sunday and get your take on it as well.
Yeah, I'm curious how he's feeling right about now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to butcher this name. Rejeki. Do you think starting private label on an account where you're already doing a lot of OA is a bad idea? Yes, but my opinion may not be for the reason that you think. My opinion on why you should keep private label and OA or wholesale on separate accounts is more for the fact that I'm guessing that you're probably going to want, you may not, but the whole idea behind starting a brand is probably some sort of exit. I mean, if I could follow the path of Moise Ali and sell my brand to Procter and Gamble that I started from getting deodorant made from some Etsy seller, I would absolutely do that. But the whole point there is, if you want to exit it, it's going to be easiest to do if everything is separate. All your bookkeeping is separate. All of your sales are separate. That account health is separate, etc. So if I were going to do a private label brand, I would be getting another account for private label. I'd actually be getting an account for each private label brand that I wanted to start.
I think Steve's talking about Wes in the most recent comment.
Good. I spoke to him and I can tell you he won't be changing much. That's fantastic. Shannon, have either of you guys heard any talk on the multi-packs GTIN issues? Not with GS1. I'm getting hit on random ones and getting very worried. So I think this is an extension of something Amazon has told us about for almost a year now. Essentially, if there is a multi-pack and it is not created by the manufacturer, especially, and I know what category you're in for the most part, Shannon. So especially in the consumable category, they're going to be taking them down. So you're going to have to. Sorry, he has been getting more and more wanting to be up here on my desk while I'm working.
I don't know why you don't let him say hello.
I know. I
plenty of
probably
opportunities. He just wants to make a cameo. Poor guy.
He does. But yeah, you're going to see more of the multi-packs. You're going to see more of the items that don't have a GTIN matching the brand get taken off the platform. Polly, I wonder if this is affecting other platforms like TikTok. I've sold hundreds of toys on that platform. That's my primary product category. Interesting. Polly, I'd love to learn more about that. I know you're in OAC Plus, but I'd love to learn about how you sell stuff on TikTok. This is just interesting to me. I don't know that this is going to affect other platforms. We've talked about eBay. Are Amazon and Walmart doing this because of some sort of TikTok effect? Because I've bought one thing off TikTok just to see what the process was like. And I purposely bought a brand name product, and it was counterfeit, and not even a good one.
I think Polly also said she ran a big eBay store too. Polly's
Mhm.
gatekeeping a lot of good info from us.
Right? CP. I can sometimes be the chief petty officer. You are absolutely right. Every now and again. Jared, this is a good outlook, man. Yeah. Yeah. It does sometimes it does suck when things get harder, but the silver lining is there will probably be less competition. John, what is the plan for inventory we are about to send in for Q4? Should retired Legos or discontinued toys not be sent in to FBA? It's a great question. I guess personally, if I were a big toy seller, which I'm not, and I was heavy in retired Legos or discontinued toys, I think that I personally would probably try to merchant fulfill more items uh, for things that are discontinued.
It's probably the safest route if you're gonna still sell toys. Back to
Yeah.
Steve's point. The advantage is you can take it down. You're not recalling inventory and bringing on that cost.
Mm-hmm. It's another good point. Yeah, Amazon's never followed their own rules. I don't expect them to do so here. Absolutely true. Testing doesn't expire per se. Amazon 12-month requirement goes above and beyond current laws on the books, as Steve understands it. So, yeah, that's the other thing too. So just recently, this is something that more sellers need to do. We've got this free rider problem in the Amazon seller community, where when there is a change, we're like, oh well, it doesn't really affect me that much. Maybe I don't sell toys or whatever, or someone else is going to take care of this. Sure, a lot of times that's the case, but I think that we need to be willing to push back a little bit sometimes publicly. Twitter is a great place for this. I don't listen. I know some people hate the platform, and I know for some people it's political. For other people, it's and they just don't care for it. I don't need another social media platform, but Amazon's easily accessible over there. You can tag Amazon seller help. They respond. There are people listening over there, and changes have been made because sellers have vocalized things on the platform. And so I think that it is important that we make Amazon Twitter great again and get more Amazon sellers on that platform so that when necessary, we can, you know, organize a little bit and let them know that, this is not right and maybe this needs to happen respectfully and even with good ideas. Because Amazon knows that they don't get it right all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's been a while since it's been brought up, but every once in a while the thought comes across that people wish that there was a way that Amazon sellers could organize, just short of the word unionize, right? That's been brought up before, and guess what? I mean, you don't necessarily have to make it an official movement. You can simply all exist in a place that Amazon engages with, which Chris just mentioned. The Amazon seller help is active, whether you tag them or not. Like they're listening to their mentions, or mentions just of Amazon, and they will chime in. I've tried to make jokes before, and I've had many a wet blanket comment from Amazon seller help, which is fine. I'd rather that than the alternative. But that's essentially what we can do. If you're present on the platform that Amazon acknowledges and pays attention to, and invest their own resources on, it only makes sense to all kind of collectively gather over there. So that's a real good point. A question before we move away from this. Was it? Did I remember correctly from the webinar? Did they Did they use the verbiage of recertifications? I believe I heard that, right?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to watch the. I am gonna watch the replay because I could not be as focused as I really needed to be, and I was trying to jot down notes as important things came up, but I don't recall.
Okay. I thought I heard that, which you could see possibly making life a little bit easier, especially with the retired sets and the toys that have become collectible because their production run has ended.
Mm-hmm. Mason, problem is Amazon is streamlined using FBA and inventory lab. eBay, you need to ship yourself and manually put in a cost per item. Problems are profits in overalls. Right? Problems are exactly why we are entrepreneurs, or why entrepreneurs get paid. What they have, I won't say what everyone gets paid as an entrepreneur, but what they have the ability to get paid is because entrepreneurs are willing to deal with and solve problems that people who are employees don't. So I think whenever anything can be called a problem, it's actually an opportunity. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but that's what we signed up for, is just to deal with problems.
And I don't if that was supposed to say streamlining FBA on Inventory Lab, I would push back on that statement. I think some
Troubles.
liberties were taken with wording a while back.
Kids Bible stories, how to ungate products. Well, you are going to need to get an invoice that has the number of units that Amazon requires on it, and you're going to need to send that in for ungating. And then you are going to probably need to do it over and over and over again until they ungate you. Ungating is absolutely still possible on Amazon in 2025. It is just more difficult than it once was, probably for a good reason. It also looks like we're in a time of change when it comes to ungating right now. I'm just noticing things being a bit different when I go get ungated.
Well, that's a time of change, or I'd probably use the word realizing that it's a bit more seasonal than we realize. That was one of my takeaways from our interview with Joy. That's another thing to pay attention to, and which I hadn't really framed it that way, that there was a seasonality to the ebbs and flows of how strict Amazon is, right? And I think I even said that to her. She phrased something, and we're used to thinking Q4 is a time that sellers lick their chops, and she made the point that Q4 is also the time that counterfeiters lick their chops, and Amazon's going to act accordingly. So she actually alluded to the times of year and/or the upcoming events, like a Prime Day is one she mentioned in the interview, and obviously Q4, to where Amazon's going to tighten it up because they know that bad actor activity is going to spike as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. All right. Come here. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the
Louie.
guy right there.
What's
right
up,
there.
buddy?
All 19 pounds of this cat. All right.
See, that's so much better.
Let's see here. All right. Another note. Amazon clarified they would not remove offers on toys with in-process testing. Yes, That is absolutely right. Keith, what do you mean the process of deleting listings? So and this podcast will be out probably a week and a half or so. But it is probably best practice to close and delete any listing that you have that you are no longer selling. That way you can hopefully sidestep any issues like IP complaints, etc., that can happen even if you don't have anything in stock, but you have an open listing in your Seller Central account. Joy, I thought it was going to be an hour-long webinar. Joy was able to help us stretch out a podcast to 2 hours and 20 minutes, all about account health. And I've got a feeling it's going to be a pretty popular episode.
If we didn't have to pick up the kids from school, we might still be talking.
Right. Let's see here. Stacy, the arts and crafts category technically has toys. I wonder how they will deal with that. My belief is they said that if it fits the CPSC definition of toys, then it very well may be caught up in this. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be just the toy category. I think that's a nice, easy umbrella term to use. But I think if it fits the CPSC definition of a toy for 12 and under in the United States, that it's going to end up being included. Yeah, he is. People like. My wife calls him Louie. I call him Lewis. But yeah, people seem to like him. He, on the other hand, he's not really a big fan. He likes me and he likes my wife, but he's not really a big fan of having people in his space.
He likes
Jared,
anybody within a proximity of his food container, though.
Yeah, absolutely. He does. He will love you if he thinks you're going to put food in his bowl. Speaking of multi-packs, have you heard anything on the virtual bundle having reduced fulfillment fees? Jared, that's a great question. I haven't gone and looked either, because I don't have the ability to make a virtual bundle. Parth, follow-up question. Is it possible to create multiple Seller Central accounts under the same corporation or LLC if I were doing PL? I think so, but I would not recommend it. Okay. And let me explain why I would not recommend this. Okay. Let's just say that you decide to do private label in addition to your online arbitrage business, etc. The whole thing is you might want to sell off that private label brand someday. Maybe somebody wants to acquire it. You're not allowed to sell an Amazon seller account. That Amazon seller account doesn't belong to you. Okay. It belongs to Amazon. However, the way people get around that is that they sell the corporate entity, and the corporate entity then has access to that seller account. And so that would be another reason that you should have another corporation or LLC if you're going to do private label. And honestly, if I were going to do this, I would want to try to get them as separated from my OA account as possible. Amazon is a data company that moonlights as a retailer. And so they know all. But if you can put any kind of firewall between your two accounts, the better. Kathy, how do we get the replay? From what I understand, Amazon will be sending it out to everybody who registered, and they will also be putting it in the announcement where they announced this whole change in the toys. CP, I definitely agree with you. We should all be on Twitter, and everyone should talk about this. And I mean, Steve is going to put out smart takes on this. The toy investor. There are going to be a lot of people who put out some really smart takes on this, and it can be just as simple as retweeting what they put out or commenting on it so that it does get more reach from the algorithm. Like that is the thing. We need to make Amazon Twitter great again. By commenting on each other's stuff, by making sure that it's getting pushed out there, that Amazon does see it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you're almost just as importantly, you're going to see people talk about their experiences as they navigate this, which can be a big leg up.
Yeah. Can you walk us through your earlier thought process adding item to Amazon for TIC requirements before sending to FBA? I think this would be a great solution to not get stuck with return fees. Yeah, my whole thing is let's say you're out sourcing, whether you're in store or doing online arbitrage. If you think you're going to buy something, I would throw it into your Amazon seller account, add it to your Amazon seller account. You don't have to add in any stock in there or anything, and then just see if it shows up with an account health notification. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's basically just an extra step. If you have a process for checking the hidden generic trick, you can add it to your catalog with add products under catalog in order to see if it's a hidden generic. That's how I always do it. And then from there you would just add 0 quantity and then save it, correct?
Yep. Carlos, did they talk about the new children's toys paperwork required? They did, and that's what we're talking about as well. Dank Mellon just joined. What's going on with TIC for kids toys? You're gonna have to go back and watch the entire thing that we put together here. But the big thing is it's the best bad news we could get, essentially. Heather, I see you're both sporting the new OAC Plus merch. Yes, ma'am, we are. Hopefully yours is in the mail soon. They ship a little slow. I may have to switch companies due to how slow they shipped. But shirts are high quality. I was rather surprised at the quality for $9.99. Hopefully it shrinks a little bit in the wash. Although, made me feel pretty putting it on. And let me know how skinny I was. And this is a great little opportunity if you're interested in being ahead of the pack. Okay, when it comes to information, the people in the OAC Plus, they had the link to this webinar that happened today a week ago. All right, and really just started seeing a lot of other people other than Steve and a couple other folks. Really didn't see them start talking about it until early this week. Like we stay on the forefront of news and education in the Amazon space for those people in OAC Plus. And then eventually we bring it out here to the public, but not before our group gets to know about it first. On top of that, we give you guys leads, Amazon to Amazon flips leads. You get free access to Storefront Stalker Pro. You get $3,000 of education. The OA Challenge, the Wholesale Challenge. You get Credit Card Points and Miles Challenge, Amazon Influencer Program, Keepa Academy, Keepa SOPs. I mean, all this stuff that we've created over the years, you get access to all of it. You get live sourcing with Chris once a week. We do a live coaching call every single Thursday at noon. Tomorrow we've got a special guest. We've already had special guests in Steve and Joe on. We've had Saul in there teaching people how to do things. And then every now and again, we just create videos to help out the community. But it is quickly becoming the best community for Amazon sellers. And if you're interested in joining, would highly suggest you click the link down below the video. It's ohchallenge.com/plus. Get in, get friendly with your other sellers, support each other, ask questions. We've got a support ticket channel if you need help with anything. We offer suspension support. And then as soon as you're in there, grab an OAC Plus shirt. Not a better looking $10 shirt on the market.
Yeah, and I'd imagine a lot of people are probably some percentage of the people out there are probably going to be looking to divert some capital away from toys for 12 and under. So I immediately think of the value of the Keepa Academy and the Keepa SOPs can provide as you may want to divert your resources into a different category. So that will come in very handy around this time.
Chris, show us that pup. My dog, man, I can't get a 140 pounder up on my lap, unfortunately.
He'd
Game
probably
Club.
come into view just walking by.
Oh, yeah, he would. All right, so Game Club. I'm from Pakistan. I watch my country creators. So after watching this, I followed, and they told me I needed to register a corporation in the UK or US. So I registered a UK company and face bank account. So what do you suggest I do as a student? I can't afford many fees. It's not very often that we can't help in some way, but unfortunately, I'm not sure that I can help with this particular situation. Because I'm not sure what information that they're giving you. I also don't really know much about the UK or what fees they charge or anything like that for bank accounts or being a corporate entity over in the UK or anything. So unfortunately, I don't know that I can help. I'm sorry. Let's see. Luke, good, man. I got to get people posting pictures of their shirts in the group. Appreciate this. Thank you guys for your analysis and breakdown of this tick issue. Y'all are awesome and a positive motivational force in the reseller community. Thank you. I think that's the whole reason we wanted to do this. Make sure that there is good information out there for folks. Not that anyone necessarily gives out bad information on purpose. It's just it's not always easy to be nuanced in 15 minutes. And so requires people who are willing to go a bit longer, a bit deeper to offer some nuanced takes on what happens in this space, because it is there are layers to this thing. So, all right. Anything you got anything for us before we head out, Chris?
I don't think so. This kind of dominated my focus today. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you, where do you stand? I know you don't do a lot of toys. Are you thinking about doing less being a good idea, or
I don't know that anything's going to change in our business particularly. I'm not gonna say no to toys, especially if it's like a hot toy for Q4 or something like that. I really just think you're gonna have to be a little bit more careful. I'm not gonna buy 100 right off the bat. I think 3 months ago I bought like 50 of some Lego or something. And I had no worries about that whatsoever. I probably wouldn't do that today. But would I still send in 10? Yeah. After checking to see whether or not I get that account health notification. So,
yeah, I can't help but think. Look, and this isn't something to base a business strategy on. I understand that, but as I'm thinking about it on my own as it relates to what I'm going to do moving forward, with Q4. I just simply can't envision a scenario where I'm buying a toy from a big brand, because I'm not buying from shady sites and I'm not or lesser known toy. I mean, if I'm buying toys, they're GI Joes and Transformers and LOLs, and it's brands that we all know if we mentioned it in a conversation. I can't imagine a scenario where I bought a GI Joe figure and there's 20, 30, 50 other sellers on the listing where I get caught holding the bag and my 30 days expires before somebody other than me produces the documentation required.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be shocked.
Yeah. I don't know. I really don't think this is going to change a whole lot, at least for me, but again, I'm not holding on to toys long term. I think maybe if I were doing that, there'd be a little bit more thinking, but again, because there is, man, I really wish I could remember that term that was used, but it's something that by its very nature should be more valuable, even if it has to go to another platform. I don't know. I'm not going to say that this whole thing was much ado about nothing, which I kind of think CPC was. Like, it was sellers were up in arms, and I think it was much ado about nothing. This is going to be a little bit bigger of a deal, but I think this is the best scenario for this kind of thing possible. So Amazon handled this way better than Walmart did. I can say that much.
Yeah, I don't think there's any argument on that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back. We'll be back this Sunday to chat again with you guys. Hopefully, we'll see you again. It looks like we may have some new faces and some new people who came out for this particular show. And perhaps I did use some provocative language in trying to get people to come out here. So, but we'd love to have you back on Sundays and Wednesdays at 5:30 when we do this all over again. And we're here to help you any way we can in your business. So until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and good selling, everybody. Have a great day.